Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Rockstar Interviews from Beyond. And today, this is an interview with Chris Cornell, and we're on part 2 now. And just as we left part 1, Chris had brought in Chester Bennington of Linkin Park, lead singer of Linkin Park, who passed 2 months after Chris, and they're talking about their dynamic. But before we go back into that dynamic with Chris and Chester, I want to ask Chris a little bit more about the day he died and what happened to him from a spiritual point of view after his body died and his spirit passed. So would you be willing to share with us a blow-by-blow detail of what happened the moment your spirit left its body?
He says absolutely. He says he will. Yes, he will. He'll be as detailed as I can handle.
Okay. Okay.
So let's talk about. He's saying let's talk about how I felt.
Okay.
I didn't physically feel well. I wasn't feeling well physically.
Mm-hmm.
I was exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
I had some sort of sinusy head congestion, something, just tired. I had a scratchy throat. I felt angst filled.
Mm.
And when I get that head thing he's saying, I get angstful because I don't know if I'm going to be able to produce the Chris Cornell thing. And so there was a lot of that going on.
Oh, I bet that's got to be stressful.
Mm-hmm. But he's saying that's not enough stress to push one over the edge. He's also saying that he had a very normal couple hours up before the show. You know, he just was chilling out, talking to his wife, talking to his kids. He had just spent a couple weeks before with the family for Mother's Day. Everything was full-blown going on the way it should, he says. And what happened is, actually, he's saying he took a cocktail, okay,
like an alcohol cocktail.
Mm-hmm. And he's also saying he took pills that were prescribed for him. He's very clear, but that he probably took them too close together. And then with the drink on top, he's saying the best analogy he could give is that the part of the brain that tells us rational, everything's okay, got squished down by, and he's using squished down by the chemical and the alcohol, and all reasoning went out the window. He said, and he is emphatic about this. I did not kill myself knowingly.
Okay.
Emphatic. I wouldn't do that. He said, I loved my family. So
you had to have been out of your mind to do that, like to do that, right?
Yeah. He said there was no logic, there was no reason. So as I'm looking at my body, in this position where I had just ended it all, I looked at everything around me. I could see myself laying there. I could feel a pumping, a throbbing in the side of my neck. I could see it and feel it, but I was the observer of it.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't literally laying there on the floor as me, Chris. I was looking at me lay on the floor with the veins throbbing in my neck.
Wow.
Slowly, one part of me pulled away from the other part. And it's like the further I got, the less I could see, but I wasn't really moving. I was hovering there, but it was like I kept getting further and further from that physical representation that was me.
Oh, interesting. Uh-huh. So like feeling more detached.
Mhm.
Would detached be
Yes, yes, he's saying yes, detached would absolutely be the word.
yeah.
But yet he's saying there's still an attachment because that's physical Chris laying there.
Mm-hmm.
And soul Chris is trying to reconcile all of the teachings and lessons that physical Chris gave him. And so it's like this, he says, if you think about it, you go to the store and you scan the barcode and it
Mm-hmm.
gives you the exact item you're looking for and you get the lowdown deets on the item. He's
Right.
saying that's what the soul was doing. It was kind of bar scanning Chris, the physical Chris, getting all the download so I could, packing up your suitcase to go home would be the analogy.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. So when you are in this state, is there an immediate dropping of the veil where you're like, okay, I'm not in my body, I'm now broader Chris, or is there like some time that unfolds where you're still sort of in between? How long do you hang out on Earth?
He's
First.
saying it's hard to say. He's saying because there isn't like a time. He's saying I know that it wasn't instantaneous
Right.
because I was doing the checklist. I was dotting my I's, crossing my T's, he says in human language.
Mm-hmm.
But instantly, as he's backing away, and he's saying it probably would be instantaneous if he were to measure it, but as he's backing away,
Mm-hmm.
he's backing into something. And so he can feel this immense warmth and light. And he said it was like a pulsating energy that was just like, that was attaching to his neck, like where he was seeing the throbbing in his neck on the Chris laying there was actually where it was just kind of the radiating to pull him back.
So there like a magnetic pulse
Yes.
sensation?
Yes. Magnetic or, energetic, just like literally just, he said it wasn't like physical hands touching you.
Uh-huh.
It was just a draw, a pull. Yeah.
Now, did you go visit your family before you left the Earth plane?
There really wasn't time for that, he says.
Okay.
It's not like you say, well, I'm going to go check out the kids first before I go.
Okay.
He's just saying, it's like you're he's saying your cab pulls up, you get in it, you go.
Okay.
And because there is ample opportunity to visit them, and he has. Okay. But this is interesting because he's saying he wants us to understand that there's protocol, there's system, to be done. Like it's like he said, it's not like checking into a hotel, but it kind of sort of is. Like you're showing up because now you're here. You still have the physical entity that was you, but you don't have any. There's no dark, there's no aches, there's no pains, there's nothing. And you still have to have accountability. He's saying you still have to do the insight and drop the dialogue and, that you had as human and kind of shift into the soul mode is what he's saying.
Did you have a guide that you work with that came to greet you at a certain point?
Well, instantly he said, you're greeted with, and he said, it's a human thing to think there's names, he says, because it was just this beautiful white entity that had like an outline. It wasn't anything that looked human. It wasn't scary at all. It wasn't anybody recognizable. And he's also clarifying every single person's experience is different, but similar in a lot of ways.
So do you feel like this being that met with you was a guide that you've worked with, or just a being of love and light that was helping bring you to the next phase?
He's saying he was part of the welcoming committee.
Oh, how cool.
He was foreign to him, but yet familiar to him.
Did you have a spiritual belief on Earth?
Love.
Love. So was it surprising to you that there was something beyond?
No.
Uh-huh.
No. Instantly he says no. He says, I never was traditional. It didn't work for me. I was started out being traditional, but nothing worked for me. And I knew that there was something more. I just didn't know what to call it or what it was. And he learned, as he's saying, mid-20s to early 30s, how to be expressive of this bigger power in his personal relationships, because he didn't always know that.
Say more about that. The bigger power of the not thinking not being in a box, being outside the box thinking, or?
Well, yeah, but he's saying treating life
Mm-hmm.
as precious as it is, with the energy, the knowing that there is a governing body that's kind of fueling us all. Mm-hmm. He says, and part of it made me feel invincible when I was younger. He didn't have the epiphany, he's calling it, until he was like mid to late 20s to early to mid 30s, where he embraced that there was something more. And so when he understood that this something more was an energy, was a feeling, he wasn't going to be the holy roller. He wasn't going to stand out there and say, well, here's my spirituality, I'm wearing it like this. He did it in very quiet ways with his work.
Yeah. So in your song "Blow Up the Outside World," it starts out with "Nothing seems to kill me, no matter how hard I try," and I can hear the tune in my head. What was that? Had you been suicidal before?
Yeah, but not seriously suicidal. He
Okay.
said, he would think at times, especially in his late teens and early 20s, he would think that was the answer. Mm-hmm. And he would he felt like things were out to get him. And he said, not in a paranoid way.
Yeah.
Just, like everything's stacked against me. Late teens, early 20s, he wants to clarify that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so he's saying, as you look at my music and as you look at the progression of the lyrics of my music, you will see my mind.
Yeah. I mean, you're incredibly expressive in your writing, and the way that you choose your music is so, it's so interesting. I mean, the way you choose rhythm, the way you choose melody, it's all so unique, and it still conveys this energy of how you're feeling, and a lot of it is pretty intense. But would you describe yourself as an intense guy on Earth?
He says, first of all, the music and the melody chose him. He didn't have to really go looking for it. So intense, he's going, intense, I guess I could be. Yeah. I guess.
Yeah.
Deep,
for sure.
Philosophical. Yeah. He's very nonchalant about it.
Well, I'll ask you this way. Were you one for idle chit chat?
No. No.
Then you, my friend, are intense.
Yeah. He said life just didn't lend itself to idle chit chat for him. It was never about idle chit chat. There was depth and substance to everything. And he said sometimes that's the stuff that just overloaded and overwhelmed his head. Mm-hmm. And just made him feel like he was a hamster on a wheel, like this just keeps happening. The dark, the depressiveness.
Yeah. Well, how did depression show up for you? Were you like the people who can't get out of bed and just want to be in bed and just pull the sheets over your head?
No. He said, no, I did not have depression like that. Mm. I became moody. I became nasty. Mm. I became a recluse. I became judgmental.
So, I mean, you're describing low vibrational thinking. I mean, now that you're on the other side, would you agree that, from what I understand of the law of attraction, the more you thought negatively, the more you took on, and you were such a sensitive guy, the more you took on more sensitivity, more negativity, and then that started to create maybe what showed up as depression in your life. I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. He said you absolutely attract what you vibrate at. You bring it to you.
Mm-hmm.
He said, but I had no way of understanding how to fight the dreams. It would all.
Oh, you would have bad dreams?
Yeah, it would all track back to the dreams, to, he said he had a lot of dreams where he felt like he was falling, like he couldn't catch his balance.
Wow, like, and not in a good way. Because I mean,
Right.
we had Tom Petty, and we were talking about free falling in a good way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he says it was not. To him, it was like he was unstable and he was not on sure footing, not with sure footing.
Would you call yourself emotionally fragile?
At times.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
At times.
Was your relationship with others, your wife and your friends, either in the music industry like Eddie Vedder or Kurt Cobain or any of them, honestly, were they helpful for you in feeling more stable, or were there people in particular that did help you feel more stable or balance you?
He has a tremendous amount of respect for Eddie Vedder. He said he just remembers the day he met Eddie Vedder, and Eddie Vedder was so green and so new to everything. And, in walks this little wet behind the ears kind of guy, he's calling him. And, he just took to him right away. Their energies connected. So Eddie always made him feel better.
He seems like a sensitive soul too, but also so bright.
Chris is saying he and Eddie are cut out of the same cloth.
Oh,
very
wow.
much.
Wow.
And even if you listen, they have, each one of them have such a distinct style, a distinct tone in their voice. Like there's no misunderstanding.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can tell who's who. I mean, Eddie Vedder has got that like innate vibrato. It's like, I don't even,
incredible.
Who does it? It's amazing. Yeah. Incredible.
But he's saying there wasn't any one person that, could lift him. Well, he's retracting that because he is saying Vicky.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's saying Vicky. And he probably shouldn't have called Vicky the day that he did while he was not completely lucid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Maybe he needed to somehow give her a clue as to why, the end happened the way that it did. But I want to shift gears because there are a few things I do want to ask you. What made you the happiest in this life?
Oh, creating my music, just dumping everything in my head, just taking it out and making a difference with what I said, and my foundational work, which is more than just what you see. And of course, my kids and my wife, and but he's saying his music was what changed everything for him. He's saying had he not found music as early as he did, he would have left much sooner.
Oh gosh, I bet. Well, and you had this incredible ability to collaborate. I mean, you collaborated with, of course you collaborated in your band with Soundgarden, and your incredible guitar player, Kim Thale. I think I'm pronouncing it right. And then you joined Audio Slave. You also, before that, you worked with Temple of the Dog with Eddie Vedder. And even when you were doing solo projects, you were still collaborating in this way that lent itself to allowing people to really give you input in this way that you received. Mm-hmm. And you even collaborated with a fan. And I'll just set it up a little bit that your fan, who is going through a really difficult time, reached out to you and you made a song with them.
And he said, that's just what life was. If you had something that could help someone else, you just did it. And he's saying, this is an interesting perspective on the collaboration. Yes, it was a beautiful effort on everybody's part, but as per the Life review, mm-hmm. the collaborations now, in hindsight, were ways of him not bonding and setting ties as tight as he could. Instability in relationships. I'm
Say
not.
more about that. I don't know that I understand that.
Because he's saying, I did something until I didn't do it, which is
Uh-huh.
fine and
Uh-huh.
normal. But I knew when I went in to do something, I always left myself an out. Like it was never going to be forever. Even Soundgarden, it just, when it felt like it was done and I felt like I was ready to move on, he says, I went and I did Audio Slave. And then when that was, or Temple of the Dogs, he said, I just always left myself an out. I couldn't stand the fucking box.
Well, a lot of people who have experienced divorce in families do typically have commitment stuff. I don't want to say issues, but stuff. I mean, I've dealt with that in my own mind. Do you think that that might have been part of it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And my inability to be in my head in a little bit more practical ways in the early days would have probably served the marriage a little bit better.
Oh, I'm sure plenty of people can, relate to that. So who were your favorite musicians here living on the planet?
Well, of course, Eddie, he says, of course, Eddie. And one of the things that was interesting to me, I was listening to him, I was asking him, who is he looking at right now? Who's he got his eye
Yes,
on?
that would be my next question, but go ahead with that. That's fine.
And he said to me, Imagine Dragons, but he said to me Dan, and then I was like, well, Dan, who?
Daniel Reynolds.
Dan Reynolds. Then I heard Imagine Dragon. He's got this affinity for Dan Reynolds in this nurturing papa energy. In a sense, he's telling me not to sit here and call Dan dark, but the world needs to understand how sensitive Dan is.
Oh, really? Okay. My kids love Imagine Dragons. I'm going to have to listen to them because I don't really even know much about them.
Yeah. So
thanks for the heads up.
That was somebody. And, right now he says to me that he's got Ronnie Van Zant with him, Leonard Skinner.
Yeah. Oh, good. Hi, Ronnie.
Yep. And Stevie Gaines, comes to some wicked guitar playing. Stevie Gaines, I mean, he's, jamming and.
That is so cool.
And Scott Weiland.
Oh, yeah. Scott Weiland. Hello. So, yeah. Scott Weiland. He's definitely, Ronnie Van Zant and Scott are on the list to have on the show. So, yeah, I'm glad you guys are coming through. Love you guys.
Yep. And he's also, let's see what else I have here that he just told me. We did cover Rusty Cage because he sang the lyrics to that song were his way of saying fuck you to boundaries. Because with that song, he's saying that metal met punk, met popish, met hillbilly, he's saying.
Wow.
And one of the things that he is most proud of with that song, and he says, I was an idiot, I kicked myself. Johnny Cash recorded that song, which, by the way, Johnny Cash is this, oh my God, this amazing energy, and Chris, hangs out, but Chris couldn't, he's saying, I couldn't wrap my head around Johnny Cash doing Rusty Cage. I
couldn't either. It was like, what?
So much. And so he said he couldn't wrap his head around it so much that he did not write the arrangement for it. And he actually kicked himself when he heard the arrangement because he said it's fucking brilliant.
It's brilliant. And Johnny Cash did an entire cover album that was absolutely phenomenal.
Yes.
So we're going to be talking to you about that, Johnny. And are there any last thoughts? I hate to cut it short. I mean, this hour just went by so fast. And it's been an honor and a privilege to be in your company, Chris. Really, thank you so much for coming through today.
His last message is just take care of our children.
That's awesome.
Really be a responsible adult, even if you don't have children, and be mindful of the welfare of our children, he says.
That's awesome. Yes, indeed. And if there's anything we can do to assist you, please let us know. And I'm going to be putting some lovely YouTube video links of a lot of the songs that I loved of Chris's. And if you have anything that you want us to link onto the description box of this show, please feel free to do that. And please do not forget to subscribe to the show if you're liking what's going on. And if you have rock stars that you're interested in joining us on this show. And I also want to put a shout out to other mediums. Veronica is an incredibly talented medium, and she has a lot of irons in a lot of different fires. So I personally am looking for more Veronicas. So we'll have Veronica, and we'll have a couple of other mediums join us as we communicate and have Rockstar Interviews from Beyond. So check out our information, join our fan page on Facebook, and be in touch. All right, Veronica, and also check out Veronica on Veronica if you want to have a session, or if you want to connect with her about what she's doing, veronicadrake.com. And my
Can I just say really quickly, my favorite song is Hunger Strike. I just have to get that out there. I cannot stop playing that.
Oh, wait, you know what? That actually brings up one thing I totally forgot, but I have to ask Chris this. And Burden in My Hand is my
Yes.
but I'm a huge Jeff Buckley fan, and I heard that you what was it for Jeff Buckley? Where I wrote it down here. Oh yeah, that you wrote "Wave Goodbye" for Jeff Buckley, and I just want to know a little bit about it. And is Jeff there? And I just love Jeff.
He loves Jeff. When you said that, his whole being just opened up. He said it was the most difficult thing I had to do. It was so difficult, and every fiber of my being poured into that song, he said. Everything that I was and would ever become.
I'm going to have to link that on the description box because, and also maybe I'll put a little something about Jeff Buckley, because if you guys haven't heard of Jeff Buckley, he is another one of our people that burned out way too young, and the voice will blow you away. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, all of you spirit beings that are amazing artists and rock stars in your own right. Thanks for coming through. I love you all very much. And for tonight's show, thanks a lot for stopping by. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.